Hey folks, welcome back. This is now going to be part 2 of the review of the WE MP5 compared to the SRC MP5. Now we're going to talk about the other half of it. We're going to show the magazines and how it shoots and the other details that I wasn't able to fit into the first video. Alright, I hope you folks enjoy, and here we go.
Let's go and talk about the magazines real quick since we're on that subject. So these are the two magazines. If you put them side by side, I have a little tape on there in mine, but this is the WE open right there. This is also loaded too, but this is the SRC version. I like the casing of the SRC version since it looks a lot more realistic. You know, it has that little hole right there. It doesn't look like it's an Airsoft magazine. It has, you know, the 9x19 logo right there, and it just looks a lot like the real one. Obviously, except for the top part now, it looks kind of funky. To access and everything, I think I've already showed you folks in the other videos, but that's how it looks like. But comparing that to the WE version, the top part again looks kind of funky, right? And of course, they do sell the ones that are closed off, a more realistic version, but you know, the one that comes with the gun is more like this one. Bottom part isn't as realistic. It looks more like the Airsoft traditional intake valve right there. And the magazine right here, this one's a lot heavier and not a whole lot heavier, but it feels a lot thicker too. This magazine right here actually won't even fit into the magazine well of the SRC version because it's just that much larger. See, and obviously they look a lot different, so they're not going to be compatible with each other. And so, but those are the magazine comparisons. So again, which do you like better? Do you like the looks of this one, or do you like the looks of this one? Now, this is where there is some functional difference, though. I think it's a lot harder to maintain the CO2 version right here. Like I said, if there's a leak or well, basically, if there's a leak in the gas, this green gas version, you know, silicone is going to be your easy fix to it, and you can have it repaired and stop it. And you'll have a fully functional magazine again, or you can buy new rubber seals. With the CO2 version right here, it's just a nightmare to get it all fixed, and you know, when you're putting in the CO2, you have to kind of, you know, spin the bolt at the bottom to tighten it, and depending on how bad the leak is, you know, you might be losing a little bit, or you might be losing a lot of gas, and it's not as efficient. I used to be able to get like 90 rounds out of a magazine, but now, depending on how, you know, how much gas I'm losing, I might only be able to get like 45 rounds out of them. There was just basically some bad leakage of one of the rubber O-rings internally here, and it's not your traditional one. It's a very like special O-ring that kind of meets the CO2 to the rest of the valves. I don't know, but I had to buy another magazine. Unfortunately, it was like 60 bucks or whatever, and I had to get it replaced for Mint for that. But again, it's a lot easier to maintain a CO2 or sorry, a green gas magazine than it is to maintain a CO2. These are also a lot easier to find than these. It took me like 3 weeks to order and get in shipment of another magazine to replace this one. And it's still not here actually. It's supposed to be here maybe next week. So keep that in mind. One, you're getting more realism out of them, but it was a little bit more maintenance for you right there. The other nice thing, though, of course, is, you know, that's more of a functional aspect, but how it does in the cold. So obviously, if you were to refrigerate both of these, take them out, this one would not do very well. Green gas doesn't do too hot. Now, the CO2 version would obviously be dramatically reduced, but it's still at a level that's pretty good. And that's just something, so if you're maybe living in more areas where it's colder, you might want to consider the CO2 option for your games. All right, so now that we talked about that, let's see here. Let's talk about the upper receiver, or the stamp sheet steel part. So this is where, again, this is more personal preference. I'm not trying to highlight that this is better or more realistic to the real steel, because like I said, I don't have the real steel MP5. I only have the 22 caliber version, which is chambered in 22. It's the real steel MP5, but it's not really the 9mm MP5. It's kind of like a civilian version. And So it's really hard to tell which one, how the texturing of an actual MP5 is like. But this is the SRC version right here. It's a very matted black finish, which I very much like. Comparing to, I don't like the shiny ones as much. I like the matted black. And what really I thought was really nice though is that you look at the very top. They don't have HK logos on it, but they do have these nice serial numbers, which I don't know if this is unique or not. Everyone might have the same serial number, but of course, little German eagle, the little symbol over there. No HK MP5 here, unfortunately, but at least there are some markings on here. So that's actually kind of cool, and that's actually something that stands out compared to the WE version. Standard, everyone has that caliber 9x19 right there. That's pretty much all the trades you're going to get on these MP5s. They're not really big on trades. Comparing that to this one, well, see, already you can see how shiny it is. So look how shiny it is. Again, I'm not saying it's unrealistic because I've seen some MP5 photos where it's just as shiny. But again, no trades, no serial numbers, not even that eagle picture or anything like that. So it does have the standard, caliber right there, but it just doesn't have it. So depending on which one you like, maybe if you knew more about MP5s, comment below and let me know. Because maybe one's more realistic than the other, or maybe it's just depending on the photos you're looking at. Maybe the MP5s are just older and they just aren't as shiny, So again, WE very shiny. SRC, more of a matted black finish right there. So those are some take-home points from there. Again, last thing is, now this is a big thing though. That's all cosmetics that we kind of talked about for the most part. Now in terms of function, I do get the feeling that I am able to get a little bit more realistic operations in terms of how you load the magazine, how you cycle it with the SRC or the SRC version. With the MP5, the WE, you still do the same thing. You lock the bolt to the rear, you insert the magazine, but when you insert the magazine, it's just not as it doesn't click as nicely into place. It's a little mushy, and then of course you smack it and to load it. So that's pretty routine. So it's a subtle difference. But that's how you load it. I think mine is not really functional because I tried finagling with the switch to make sure it stops firing when there are no BBs left, but it continues to dry fire. I can't get it to fix it for some reason, and I think that's just a fluke. But if that were to be fixed, I think it wouldn't be too bad. But I don't know. It just doesn't click as nicely. So with this model, but everything else is pretty nice. Comparing that though to the SRC version, with this version, I think it's a lot more realistic. You've got the same bolt cycling right there, but when you load the magazine, which by the way, it's double stacked, so you can see them, they alternate one by one, left, right. So just like the real one, you load a magazine in, and so notice how it's on the BB's on the right side, right? You load a magazine in, notice how it clicks, watch this. There you go. Nicely clicks. Very solid click right there. That's a nice advantage for this gun. Just like the real one, when you put in the magazine, you have to push it in and then rock it back for it to click. So there we go. See? Very smooth. And I like how realistic that is. And then of course loading is just the same as the WE. You smack it down. Alright, and then you're ready to go. Well, you want to switch it to go. But when you take it out though, look at that. So now the magazine, the top round is on the left side. Just like the real gun, it just strips the round and it cycles back from left to right. So I think that's very realistic. So that's a good thing. And again, if you're ever firing, I just love this gun because it has a nice feature where you fire it, and there's no more rounds in the magazine, but if there's one in the chamber, and you pull out the magazine, there's nothing in there, right? And you put it back in, you'll still be able to fire that last round. Whereas with the WE version, the model itself, you can't do that. What happens is if you fire it, all the rounds in the magazine are gone except for the one in the chamber. If you pull out the magazine, this part right here, this part here, will flip up and be in the up position because there aren't any rounds in the magazine. And when that happens, because you pull it out and you try to put it back in, you're not going to be able to fire that last round that's in the chamber. So you can't routinely kind of pull out in and out of the magazine to check to see if you have rounds left without risking not being able to fire the last round. It's totally nitpicking right there because they're very similar, but I kind of just want to highlight the subtle differences between the two and how they operate. That's why I want to hand it to the SRC version, because even though it's a little bit cheaper, made of lower quality materials in some areas, they do have some points that I think makes it better than the WE version. And I think in terms of function, operations, I think it's a little bit more realistic. But that's, yeah, so that's what it comes down to. The last thing though I want to mention is because of the cost, what you're, like I mentioned already, with the cost, you're basically paying for a little bit better materials in certain areas, like the stock well, not this version, but the better diopter sights, rear iron sights, better front barrels, and cocking tubes, things like that. You're paying for better quality materials, but in the overall grand scheme of things, they're both fairly functional in terms of quality. They're both going to last you for so far equal amounts of time. I can't tell you how long that is because I've only had these guns for about a couple months, so they're still brand new. We can't really go off a whole lot for right now. But I do feel like because this gun's a lot cheaper, and maybe it's because this is the second MP5 I have, I am a little bit more, harsh with the treatment of this gun. I don't kind of baby it because it's cheaper, and B, it's like a second MP5, so I kind of like smack it around a little bit, try to reload like I'm one of the cool guys on TV, I do that a lot actually, and nothing's ever happened. This hasn't cracked, none of the things have broken off. So this is a really solid piece. Don't get me wrong. So don't get me wrong, it's still expensive too, but I think it's got its quality points, and I think this is actually a more reasonable price than the WE version, to be honest with you. But those are how those two MP5s stack up. Let me just do one more shooting video and show you how they do in terms of groupings, and then we can go and folks can make your decision to see which one's better for you. All right, let's get to the testing range now.
Oh, and of course, before I show you folks the shooting video, I just want to give some more better quality image qualities of how the guns stack up side by side. I know the camera having this angle with the lighting makes it a little bit difficult to see some of the details. So enjoy some of these more close-up videos or pictures, higher quality image pictures of the two MP5s side by side.
Alright, first up, this is now the WE MP5. Let's try, this is away from about 10 feet away, but let's see how we fire. 3 rounds in semi and then the rest burst mode. Oops, hold on. Alright, MP5, 3 rounds in burst mode. Or 3 rounds semi-auto and then burst. Alright, pretty good groupings right there. Alright, the WE MP5. Let's change out the targets and bring in the SRC MP5. Oh, this is the worst. That's some pretty good groupings right there, actually. This is like the cheapest BB net, by the way. I bought like 15 bucks. Every time the round hits anything like above like 200 FPS, and it's gonna like break the sheets or the metal framing right here. But that's a different story. All right, let's put in a fresh sheet of paper for the SRC MP5 and see how this stacks up in terms of accuracy and groupings. Ugh. Okay. Alright, so I'm shooting now with this one, the full stock SRC MP5 now from the same distance. Alright, 30 rounds in semi-auto first. And let's see how it fires. Alright, so I think it's kind of calibrated a little funky because I'm aiming dead center, but it's going left. At least the grouping's close. Alright, let's do burst mode. And we're out. So, even though we didn't hit the dead center, I think it's just the way the system's calibrated. So, the important thing is that the groupings are tight. So, whereas with the MP5, well, the SRC, they're both kind of comparable, I guess, is what we come down to. See, if this one we knew we were shooting a little bit left, we can just compensate. But at least it's not random. It's kind of going the same area. So if we knew that, we can just kind of aim to the right a little bit. Same thing with this one here. This is the WE version, right? We were shooting a little bit low, but again, consistency is pretty much the same. I know that's not very far, and most places you're going to be shooting a little bit further, but at further ranges. But that's the best way I've got to show you how they shoot, at least at close quarters, which I would imagine most of you folks will be using the MP5 for close quarter combat, right? So hopefully that shows some insights into how it operates.
All right, let's get one last operational video of how these shoot and how they function in terms of the reloads and everything like that. So of course, safe mode, right? No magazine, SRC version. Get the magazine. We probably want to get the locks back. Perfect. Now that was pretty bad because I just shot up the wall, but cycles back. We're good. Let's try the other MP5 WE. Okay. Again. Bolt is now open, magazine's in, slap it down, ready to go. Let's do semi. Fortunately, it doesn't let you lock back yet, because, or I can't figure out how to make it lock back. But there you go. So those are the two MP5s, probably the most common ones out there. I know the VFCs are also out there too, but not a lot of folks really say that they're very good. So there's that. All right. Well, hope you folks enjoyed this content. And as always, give us a like to help support us out. or give us comments below to see how we can improve next time. Thanks a lot, folks. See you next time.